Welcome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I think today is just a brief preview and some insight into the upcoming training that we will be offering. The training is being put on by ACS Training and Technologies. They were founded in 2002. They're headquartered in Chandler, Arizona, previously in Phoenix, but moved out to Chandler. They have operations in the North America, Europe, and in the Middle East. So their areas of expertise include fraud, waste, and abuse, which is what we're going to be talking about today, as well as data governance, cybersecurity, and PACS and imaging information. So they do training all over the world with a lot of great experience. They bring in experts such as myself and Alex and Alana, who's not here with us today, but will be part of the training to put on these trainings for you. And so with that, I think we can go to the next slide. And so myself, so some of you may already know me. I scanned through the names a little bit. So I'm Shauna Vistad. I do this training on my own time. So I am a Senior Vice President of Medical Investigations and Audit, but I am not here on behalf of Damon. I am here on behalf of myself just because I am passionate about the fraud, waste, and abuse industry. So I have spoken on behalf of many different organizations such as AAPC, NHCAA, and others on this particular topic. So my areas specifically of expertise really get into understanding the coding and reimbursement methodology structures of codes and being able to break those down and really help providers understand why and how they're billing various particular services. So I've been doing this work for about 15 years because I started when I was 2. And so I really do enjoy it, and I have a great team I get to work with here and do that. So I will be talking with you about some of the various rules and regulations that go on. I'll be giving you some ideas on ways that you can use AI tools to strengthen your discussions with providers, strengthen your arguments in building your cases and supporting your findings. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges in looking at off-the-shelf products and making sure that you integrate some of the local regulations and complexities into making sure that your analytics are more refined so that you can have better audit results. And so one of the things that we'll be talking about while you're spending a day with me is how you can use AI as well as practice with me in the session for building your arguments for having difficult discussions with providers. So I'll talk to you about various prompts you can use to help strengthen the articulation of a particular audit finding, including leveraging different resources that you might not be familiar with and calling out specific regulations to better be ready to show them why the finding that you're presenting is actually the correct direction to take that in. I'll also teach you how to use it to role play when it comes to interview questions. So when my team comes to meet with me to do this, they lovingly call this being barbecued. So their AI is usually me pretending to be the provider, but you can actually use AI tools to do this as well. And they do a really nice job of helping you to think about other ways that you could argue particular strategies by the providers to avoid agreeing to your findings. And I'll show you ways that you can use that to help prepare for dispute meetings as well, just to make sure that you can look at things from multiple different angles. So that can be a really effective tool and methodology for preparing for some of those difficult meetings, such as when they say, you know, this was already pre-authorized, so you have to pay it. No, I don't have to pay it simply because it was pre-authorized. And there's a lot of different ways that you can approach that. And when you go into those, if you already know kind of what direction they'll come from, you can use AI to help you build and have ready tools at your just available for you so that you can articulate back to them why that's not going to be the direction to go in. On the next slide, what we'll do is we're also going to try to give you a lot of practical applications. So over my course of 15 years, I've attended a lot of trainings. One of the things I want that I really appreciate coming back with is something practical that I can put to use right away so I can show the value of the conference that I attended. And I feel like if I don't leave with something that I can practically apply, then it maybe wasn't a good use of my time. So we always try to make sure that we give you some of those very good practical applications. And so one of the ones I'll just quickly cover today has to do with calculations of time. And so this actually works with really any time-based code, but a place that you will see it very commonly is in the physiotherapy space. And so there is, under the CPT rules, anything that is over, that reaches half time is eligible to be billed. So if you have a 15-minute code, it is eligible to be billed once you reach 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Now, some payers, such as CMS and others, actually follow an 8-minute rule. So it specifically has to reach 8 minutes of time before it's eligible to be billed. And so what providers will tend to do is they will bill exactly 8 minutes of services, which means after 4 sets of 8 minutes, they've only performed 32 minutes of service, but they attempt to bill for 4 units, which totals actually 1 hour. And so depending on how your policy is written, if you are constrained by time, then they are limited to billing the number of units available at the 30-minute mark. So they would be only allowed to bill for 2 units of time versus billing for all 4 units. And so in this particular example, as you can see, if you do the calculation correctly, then they would only be eligible to bill for 2 units, and they would have to get to 53 minutes before they were eligible to bill for 4. But to make sure you can support this, it's important that you publish a specific policy constraining that time, just to help minimize any provider challenges on this later. But this is a really great one because it's easy to do the analytics on this from your data. Once you assign time to all of your time-based codes, you can quickly determine whether or not a provider is billing for more services in a single day than they could possibly perform. I generally start my checks at about 8 hours because you're only looking at your own data, not all providers' data. So you have to assume there's going to be some patients there that are paying cash. There's going to be some patients there that are from other payers. And so you wouldn't expect that their entire day is devoted to your patients. So anything that shows that the provider supposedly worked more than 8 hours is a good place to start. Of course, anything more than 24 hours is a very strong argument. Especially then you can start to see overlap generally between patients and things like that as you start to review the medical records. So take a look at your policies and see if this is something that you can start applying in your data analytics as we speak. And with the next slide. Oh, I forgot. I threw a little bonus in there for you on neuro. No, it's okay. You can stay off of it. But I threw a little bonus for you on neuromuscular reeducation. If you do see this code, just know that it has, under the CPT definitions, it's actually specifically for sitting and standing activities only. It's generally used only for stroke patients, but you'll see them trying to maximize out their activities, and they'll bill this code even though that's not the service they're actually performing. So if you see a lot of this, go ahead and take a look at what they're actually doing because they may not qualify for that code. Okay. And on my final slide, one of the other things that we'll talk about is how to use the regulations to strengthen your recoveries as well. And so we'll talk about the Abu Dhabi extrapolation and can you or can't you. So they have a current published regulation that you can work a little bit to get around as long as you get the provider's agreement. So we'll talk about some strategies that will allow you to potentially be able to apply that in your audits, because if they do voluntarily agree, you are able to do this, which will minimize your administrative effort in identifying your recoveries. And so those are just a few examples of the things that you can find on the day that you'll get to spend with me. And with that, I will turn it over to Alex, and he will talk to you about the things that you will be learning on 2 days with him.
Thank you, Shauna. Thank you. And sorry for some of the, problems with the slides. Okay, guys, my name is Aleksandar, and I'll be joining Shauna Shauna and Alana in this 4-day training. I'll be focusing mostly on aspects of AI, machine learning, data analytics, data science in these 2 days. I am currently senior consulting partner at Sigma Analytics and founder of my own company, Ada Insights. I'm doing AI machine learning for the last 20 years. Even as a kid, I play with the numbers, if that counts, but I always try to actually use machine learning and AI whenever I could. So I was leading actually healthcare fraud, waste and abuse detection team back in Aetna. I was working there for 5 years. And during this time, we developed a lot of cool tools. At that time, there was no generative AI, but still we were able to do a lot of nice things. And I will be sharing some of my experience as well as some of the recent development in generative AI. And I assume you're especially interested in, other generative AI tools that allow you to do your job much easier. So apparently there was a survey when you were registering for Zoom. There was a survey what you would like to learn, and I see one of the questions, what potential applications of generative AI would like to actually to cover, and it seems that many people would like to actually cover how you generate the rules, how you can actually automate some of data analysis, and of course how you can create the summary reports. And we will try to cover most of these things during this course. Another question from the survey was actually what are the primary challenges? And it's not surprising that one of the biggest challenges is actually evolving fraud schemes, because there is always constant race between the fraudsters or people who would like to actually game the healthcare system and the people who are trying to detect these kind of activities. And also biggest challenge also is the work that you're doing, a lot of manual processes. And we will try to also in this course, we will try to see how we can simplify, streamline, and even automate some of these processes using generative AI tools and agentic AI. Also, another problem that I often see is data itself, not necessarily just data access, but data quality. And we will try to cover that part as well. So basically it would be packed to the event, but I'll just try to share pretty quickly what exactly we will be covering during these 2 days, at least on my part. So previously, at least from my understanding, from my experience, people who do healthcare fraud usually will take the data, do some kind of manual investigation, and try to detect or actually develop some kind of the business rules and run these business rules. Most of these things could be potentially automated, and basically we will show you how you can actually still analyze your data without actually writing any code. It would be enough to actually just write a simple English question and get the results from the tools, not necessarily like GPT, but some other tools. We would also show you how you can build simple machine learning algorithms using another tool that we will actually try to demonstrate, going from the initial step of taking the data set, analyzing the data, generating particular features, building the model and running the model and analyzing the results. And also how you can actually try to streamline some of the processes. We will try to touch upon the aspects of AI agents. I know you will not become experts after this 2-day course, but it will be a good starting point for you to start exploring yourself. Because if you don't start exploring yourself, you will not be able to learn. Just listening to someone doing and looking someone doing will not help you unless you start doing this work for yourself. So I'll try to, in this course, I'll try to explain what are the biggest misconceptions in today's world, was the actually difference between AI, machine learning, deep learning, and the generative AI, and the darling of today's world, like GPT, DeepSeek, Gemini, Claude, whatever you are using there. We'll try to cover several of these tools. We will also try to cover what are the necessary data sources that you need to actually use in order to do the proper healthcare fraud investigation, starting from internal data sources, but also external data sources, where you need to go to find this data, and how you can effectively incorporate some of this data into your analysis. So I already kind of mentioned a little bit of this. We are trying to show you how you can convert your old paradigm when it's pretty time consuming. It's basically you have to manually sift through hundreds of data sources and you have some limited insights. We will try to show you how you can actually increase the speed, increase the scale, and find some deeper patterns, and how you'll be able to use these patterns to actually detect these emerging fraud schemes that you were interested in. Okay. So there are several aspects of the whole presentation that I would try to cover. In the first part, we would focus on data visualization. So data visualization has to work on the structured data. Typically, generative AI tools like GPT, which I believe most of you are using, Gemini, DeepSeek, are working on the text data. And these tools are not that great when you have to actually analyze the structured data and create certain type of the pattern. So we will show you how you can actually use some other tools for the actually more focused data analysis. And I can show you some of these tools today. Give me a second. Just need to find. Sorry, I have to juggle all the presentation for me. Okay, so one of these tools is called, Julius.ai. So in this tool, Julius AI, I actually uploaded the medical claim data sets, which I found online. It's completely free, public. There are no privacy actually violated here. So this data contains, and I can show you how this data looks like actually. Give me a second. Okay, it's here. So basically this is, it contains standard information. It contains like a claim date, insurance claim amount reimbursed, physician code in this particular case because they don't share actual names. It shares, admission date, discharge date, the claim admission, the diagnosis codes, all kind of other standard portions of the medical claim. And what we will try to do here is actually, we actually loaded this file into this tool. We would actually like to see, for example, I would ask to, instead of doing and creating manual SQL query for this particular data set, I could just ask to visualize providers with unusually high billing amounts by specialty. And the tool will actually not necessarily just give you the code, it will actually run the code and give you the view. This is the view histogram of insurance claim amounts. Basically, it tells you, in what amount this insurance claim amount is changing. And it will also give you all the providers. Of course, not every visualization is a good visualization. And we will also guide you how to actually see what are the most effective visualization tools. And this is, for example, here, after asking the question, to give me top 10 providers with the highest average billing amounts per claim per specialty, the tool will be able to give you this with the particular name. So this would be pretty useful for you to help you in the fraud investigation, to actually make your visualization more effective and to actually be able to start doing your investigation even further. We will also show you how you can leverage tools like Gemini or GPT to actually look at the medical record and see whether the submitted diagnosis code corresponds to something that is provided on the medical record. And let me quickly share. Yep, this is here. So, okay, this is, for example, Gemini tool, which is basically very similar to GPT. Can you see? No, you cannot see this. Okay, I have to see. Okay, so this is example of the medical record. It's actually a scanned image, and I'm using the tool like Gemini, which is similar to GPT, to actually tell me to analyze this medical record and tell me what are the most appropriate diagnosis codes and procedure code coming from this medical record. So basically you can see the tool was actually able not only to read this scanned image, which is complete image, into text, but also able to actually propose or recommend or suggest what are the most appropriate diagnosis codes for this particular medical record and most appropriate procedure codes. You can use this information to compare to the claim and see, how close the match that is. Of course, not every doctor will react the same way, but usually when you detect fraud, typically the secret is the pattern. So if you see the pattern that very often this kind of recommended procedure codes and diagnosis codes do not match with what doctor does, that's a kind of sure sign of potential fraud. So this is something that we'll try to do as well. So as you can see, I'm jumping between a lot of tools right now, but I'm trying to show you just the flavor of the things that we are trying to do here. One more thing, in addition to building predictive models here, we'll try to do the work that will help you to streamline and automating some of the work. Unfortunately, I cannot see basically and check actually what you're doing, but one of the things that some of people started to do is related to the concept called RAG. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And there are several examples of these major tools that are using this concept. For example, OpenAI or GPT have the concept called custom GPT, and we will show you how to use this. Let me just quickly go through this. Okay, here. So in GPT, typically you can start by asking questions. You can upload the data and everything like that. However, if you go to here to GPTs, and I'm not sure how many of you were using this, you're able to actually search for specific GPTs that people created for specific topic. So, for example, here, if you try to do medical fraud, you will be able to find if someone ever there in the whole universe created something that would be related to medical fraud detection or healthcare fraud detection. And no surprise, there is some guy who actually built this custom GPT. Only 40 conversations, but this is custom built GPT that will be focusing only on specific aspects of healthcare fraud detection. And you can use, for example, as a starter, the question is how I can detect double billing. And the tool will be able to give you all the necessary information there. Okay, I just click there. However, we will not just actually use this kind of custom built GPT that other people are using. We will actually learn how we can build our own custom GPTs that can work on your own data. It can work on your own specific problems that you have. And assuming you have an enterprise GPT, or actually you have a version that you're paying, that you can actually block OpenAI to share your data or use your data for training, you would be fine. So your privacy concerns should be satisfied. So we'll show you actually how you can build some of these custom GPTs. This kind of custom GPTs are something that other tools have as well. For example, in Gemini, they are called GEMS. Perplexity, they are called Perplexity Spaces. So regardless of the tool that you're using, we will show you actually how you can generate or how you can build some of these custom GPTs. I'll also show you, sorry, I'm jumping from a lot of tools here. So I just want to, sorry, I'm trying to find the right, okay, here. So I'll also show you the tool called Perplexity. And I'm not sure how many of you are using this tool. Perplexity.ai allows you to not only use one provider from the generative AI models. Perplexity, you will have an option, and let me actually show you this. So if I go to the Perplexity Pro, you will have actually option to use, okay, you will have option to use different kind of the models. You can select whether you will use GPT, whether you will use Claude, whether you will use Gemini from the Google or DeepSeek. There are other tools that allow you to do the similar thing. And Perplexity also can do a lot of search on the web. This is advantage of these tools versus tools like GPT, although the most recent version of GPT-5 added this capability. Perplexity allows you to actually change the different kind of tools within one platform. You don't need to jump from one platform to another and pay different kind of prescription. Perplexity allows you to do all these things together. There are also some other platform that allows you to do the same thing. But basically, Perplexity, you typically use Perplexity as a starting point, and then you can switch to a particular model to do actual analysis. So I know I was jumping a lot, so let me go back to my presentation. And just to share that in this kind of presentation, I'll also try to share what are the good practices of good visualization, what you should do in general, how you can generate the right SQL queries with the tools like this, not just to generate, but actually to run this. We will also use a tool called Julius.ai. For example, this is illustration of the good visualization. For example, you can always look to one specific provider, what patients this provider is looking, and try to see if these are spread all over the place, you will see that it's not possible for this guy to look all this information. And you can actually leverage some information like this into detecting suspicious activities. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're actually trying to completely change or strategize your healthcare fraud analysis. You will actually try to change the way how you're doing, how you manually analyze the data through actually how you generate insights. You don't need to actually rely anymore on people who know how to run SQL query, or you need to actually learn how to run SQL query. You can do everything yourself, or most of the things yourself, by leveraging several of these tools that we will go through. One more thing that I would like to mention, that at the end of this 2-day course, we will try to actually build a custom agent that will try to simplify one flow of your workflow. And if you're interested to register for this course, I would encourage for some of you to share some of the typical steps that you're doing in a day, so we can try to replicate some of this work. I'll have enough time to prepare for this, to replicate some of this work and show you how you can automate some of this at the processes. It will not be complex automation, because you cannot build this in the training like this, but I'll show you, how you can use certain tools like make.com and n8n.com as well to automate some of the processes as well. So this is basically what I'm trying to cover. It would be really packed. Be prepared to take a lot of notes. Maybe be prepared to actually have a laptop with you and actually try some of these things, not necessarily during the training, but maybe during the break or in the evening before the 2 days, so you can actually be prepared to ask more questions the following day. But this would be really intense training on how you can leverage generative AI. It will not be easy, but it will open your eyes towards the new opportunities, how you can leverage newest technology that everyone is talking about to actually detect your fraudsters much more efficiently. Okay, so that would be mostly about my part. And on the day 2, there will be Alana speaking mostly on different evolution in fraud detection, and especially how AI is playing a role there. She would talk about the global trends in healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse, and also cover specific aspects like beneficiary fraud schemes, also how future detection schemes may look like, and also try to cover specific aspects about hospice and nursing home fraud and abuse. So at this point, I would stop here. I think we still have enough time to cover questions. And Ali, you want to mention some of these things here as well?
Just a few points that the participants who have registered through the Zoom meeting, they will get an additional discount. And if it's an individual, it's an individual participant, they will get additional 5% discount. If they are from corporate or group, that means more than 2, then they're gonna get 10% discount. That's pretty much it. They just have to email us with their registration details, and then we will take care of that. Yeah, that's it. And then, yeah, we can get some question and answers. I guess we can have at least 2 questions, and then let's see how it, then let's see when then we can close the session. So if anyone has a question, they can send the questions in the chat box, and then we'll try to accommodate at least 2 of them.
Okay, I guess there are questions in the chat.
Yeah, that's a different one. That was about the slides, but yeah, please feel free to write your questions in the chat box, in the Q&A box. We got one question. Can you see the Alex and Shauna? Can you see the chat Q&A box? I am not
Yeah,
sure
I'm
if
trying
it's
to find this
visibility.
right now. Give me a second. Chat.
I can read it. I can read it for you if you don't have it.
Question. Okay, here I just found it. Okay, the slide is not very clear. Good. Oh, could you can you do regulatory concerns? The regulatory concerns, is that Shauna, something on that you will be covering?
Sure. So I guess I don't really understand exactly what the question is, but I'll certainly be spending some time talking about what the regulations currently say. anything I know about any upcoming changes. And if you have any particular questions or concerns, you can certainly bring them to the training and we will talk through how you might be able to address them. And actually, that'll be another great opportunity for us to do some practical practice using some of those AI tools to say, if this is what the regulation says, how am I able to use that to my advantage if I'm sitting in such and such a role, rather than having it be a hindrance? So we'll practice with some of those types of things. So I hope that you'll bring that to the training. And then Nicholas, you say, don't you believe this should be at the TPA level? Again, I guess I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but yes, this is certainly targeted to those that are working for TPAs, because those are often the ones that are performing the audits and doing types of analytics. So certainly we would be addressing it to that particular direction. Regarding HIPAA compliant, we're not in the US, so we don't have HIPAA specifically. We have very similar rules here, but not HIPAA specifically. And so I will actually, because as Alex was talking about that, it's something that definitely popped up that I want to bring to your attention. There are some creative things you can do to try to be compliant, but mostly you're going to need to make sure that you work very closely with your information security to ensure that you're compliant with your internal policies. In the UAE specifically, of course, in Abu Dhabi under ADHICS V2, you can't put any personally identifying information onto the cloud. So of course, anything done AI would be, stored in the cloud. So you have to make sure that anything that's personally identifiable is removed. But if you anonymize the information, then you may still be able to use it. It's just going to depend on what your company policies say. So that would be my answer there.
Can you share a practical example for fraud-based reviews done for Saudi market? I think Shauna would be the probably more more experienced to answer this question.
So what I would say is fraud schemes are, they are universal, and they generally fall into one of about 10 different categories, regardless of the country that you're in. So the schemes that we'll be talking about happen in Saudi, as well as here, as well as in the US, as well as in Britain and Germany and Singapore and everywhere else, because fraud, while it's only limited by the imagination, generally the overall concept still comes down to those main categories of either phantom billing, upcoding, medically unnecessary services, overutilization, and those collusion, those different types of categories. So we'll talk about many in all those different spaces, and I guarantee many of them are also happening in Saudi. Regarding testing credibility of the results, your audit findings at the end and your recoveries are the credibility of your results. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take the last one. I think it's about the real analytics. How about real analytics? So yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about it. And similar to what Shauna mentioned, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by real-time analytics, but we will be covering how you can actually analyze streaming data and actually run prepay and online business rules. So how you can run some analysis from the streaming data, not necessarily just sitting there and waiting all the claims to happen, but how you can run some of this analysis either in a batch mode or actually in a prepay mode. So what I mean by prepay mode is typically whenever the claim comes to your organization, you will be able to run either a simple business rules that you're able to develop using these tools, or actually running some machine learning model that will actually flag particular claims. And this will help before the claims are paid. So we will cover that part as well. Let's see.
Yeah, we are almost at the closing time, but then we got one more. Alex, would you like to take that one?
How about the algorithms? Again, I'm not sure what algorithms you're referring to. We would cover different machine learning algorithms that they use to build predictive models. I believe I mentioned this. We would use a tool called Julius Data AI to show you how you can actually build machine learning model from the scratch. You don't need the knowledge of a data scientist anymore. As long as you understand what you're doing, you will be able to do everything using a generative AI tool. So I'll show you how you can use this tool to actually analyze the data initially, create basic data visualization that will help you for this step. We will show you how you can use this tool to build the features that would be used to detect particular fraud. And we will show you also how you can build different kind of machine learning models, whether this is building supervised classification model like decision tree or neural network, or you can use different machine learning models like anomaly detection or outlier detection that will help you detect completely unseen and novel emerging fraud schemes. So everything would be possible for these tools, and I'll give you step-by-step instructions how you can build these tools using the tools like Julius.ai. We have one more question.
Yeah,
Phantom patient frauds are common in medical insurance, and companies currently address them through case management. How can AI help minimize such incidents in a most cost-effective way? So the quick answer to this question is AI would help you to actually streamline your data analysis. It will help you detect certain patterns that phantom providers are trying to do. And there are typical, ways how you can detect the phantom providers, but I can try to prepare a specific example how we can detect these kind of activities. Shauna, anything to add on this topic?
No, I would say I think one of the things that you'll tend to see when you're looking at phantom claims is exactly what you said. You're looking for those patterns. And so they tend to use the same language in their medical records. And so when we get to a point where we can use AI to review medical records at a faster pace, I think it will be able to better identify the records that are most likely phantom claims so that you can, reach out to those patients and say, were you actually there? Or use some of your other tools to identify whether or not the patient was actually there. And we'll talk about some of that stuff during my session as well.
Sure. So as Shauna mentioned, in fraud detection, quite uncommonly, you cannot say that only one medical claim is fraud unless you have some previous information about that provider. So it's always better certain patterns are established before you can claim that something is fraud. Just if you see one medical claim out of blue, you cannot say that clearly most of the time that this is fraud or not. You typically have to know whether certain patterns are established from particular provider to see if they're doing something suspicious or not. And that's an unfortunate fact about the fraud.
All right. So I think that's the end of our questions for today.
Yeah,
Hope to
that's
see
it.
many of you at
With
the
that,
training.
with that, we would like to wrap it up, and I would like to thank each one of you, including Aleksandar and Shauna, for this informative webinar. And we hope to see you in classes as well as we online as well. So the courses will be streamed on Zoom as well. And if you got any queries, you can contact us at given email addresses, which you can see on the screens. And hope you had a great session.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.